righty, well, welcome everyone to our Zowe office hours designed to focus on Zowe V3 for Zowe users. I'm Rose Sekach, Zowe Onboarding Squad Lead, and I'll be kicking off the session. Just as a reminder, if you are a Zowe extender, so if you've written plugins or extensions for any version of Zowe, and you missed the office hours series focused on extenders related to V3, please visit zowe.org/vnext and you'll find all of the recordings for that series on that webpage. This office hours series, however, will focus on specific Zowe components to ensure that we offer all Zowe consumers, in other words, folks who install, administer, or actually use Zowe. We want to offer them a deeper understanding of everything related to V3. And for today's session, we're going to focus in on the Zowe Explorer IntelliJ plugin. This is a new component for Zowe. It has been LTS with V2 as a plugin, but with the introduction of V3, it will become a part of core. And that's an important piece of information. We'll talk about that in one moment. Just as a reminder, I just want to share the entire plan that we have for all of the office hours for consumers. We began in early January 5th with the API mediation layer. And we have recordings for that session, the CLI and Node SDK session, as well as the Explorer for Visual Studio Code. And then following this session, we'll focus in on the web UI, systems install and packaging, and then we'll end on February 16th with just a general open office hours where we'll just be managing any questions or concerns or possibly revisiting some of the information that we are already shared. Anything is on the table for that one. Okay. So the agenda, as always, it doesn't change from week to week. The component does change, but not the agenda. We'll give you an overview of the release timeline, what's happening with V1, V2, V3, and then we'll jump into the actual component that we're focused in on. We'll start with what's new with that component in V3, what, if any, changes have been introduced with respect to installation and configuration, what users can expect from a usability perspective. Is there any impact to their experience? Then we'll dive into the specific new features that will be introduced with V3. We'll give you much more detail on those. And then we'll wrap it up with resources, contact information, and some Q&A. Now, that being said, please, if you have any questions along the way, go ahead and post them in the chat, and we'll be sure to address them either during this call in this meeting or afterwards. We will post Q&A at the vNext page at zowe.org. Okay, so some important information we want to make sure that you're aware of. The V3 release is scheduled to be introduced at the end of March 28th. In tandem with that, I guess, we also want to make sure that you're aware of the fact that V1 will terminate support on September 30th of this year. That is community support as well as likely all of the conformant support provider vendors that offer comprehensive support or support for individual components of Zowe. I recommend that if, yes, go ahead.
Hey, Rose, just a quick comment on that. From an IBM perspective, we're doing it earlier than that. It'll be March of this year, just for people listening to this recording. So. Okay.
The Broadcom support offering will continue through September. Okay, and then, so for those of you on V1, you have the option to upgrade to V2 or V3. V2 will remain supported through August of 2026, or I think we're saying Q3 of 2026. So there's a lot of runway there if you prefer to upgrade to V2. As far as compatibility goes, in other words, if you're running V2 and you're interested in V3 extensions or vice versa, which is more likely, you want to upgrade to V3 and you're not sure if your plugins or extensions will operate successfully with V2, we obviously advise you to check the conformance site. Any extension that has earned a V3 conformance badge will assure you interoperability. If that does not exist, we recommend that you contact your vendor who produces the Zowe extension. And just as a note, all support providers, so those who have earned support provider conformance, must reapply to reaffirm their conformance for Zowe v3. And as I mentioned, this component that we're talking about today is a new core component of Zowe, and therefore it will participate in the comprehensive support provider program. Okay, and then one more slide before I turn it over to Vladislav. Just a visual look at what the release timelines look like. So here we are in January, February, where we're offering an opportunity for you to test some of the Zowe technology in advance. We have pre-releases available. That information, again, is at our vNext page. We're recording these office hours for consumers. In the March timeframe, we're going to be introducing V3, and we'll also release the final active continuous delivery for V2. And then V2 will transition into full maintenance mode. That first maintenance release is scheduled for May of 2024. And then, as we mentioned, V1 will terminate support in September 30th. And as Bruce mentioned, IBM will be terminating that support in March. Okay, with that, let's talk about the Zowe Explorer plugin for IntelliJ.
Yeah, thank you, Rose. Hi, everybody. My name is Vladislav, and today we're going to talk about the IntelliJ Beanie AV3 component. And actually, there are a lot of changes going in the new version. Actually, the current version of the plugin is 1, but actually to not confuse all the users, we decided to provide the V2 as the V3 release for the Zowe, but the plugin will be V2 actually. So what are the changes? The major ones are the I would say extinction of the old version of the IntelliJ IDEA plugins. We are going to drop the support for the V1 in the future, but not now. I'll describe it later. The next major thing is last refresh date and time for masks and USS filters. Also, we will talk about all of the changes a little bit later. For the Files Explorer, there is a USS sorting feature. Also, there are some enhancements for cancel operation, for error notifications. There are some changes for description things, like for location units. Also, the changes for notifications and dialogues. And for the TSO CLI, we have a new feature called as ATTN key that we will cover later as well. Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. For the installation and configuration, as I mentioned, we have planned the change for the versioning of the plugin. So with the version 2 of the plugin and version 3 of the Zowe, We are going to support with minor and major changes only the second version of the plugin. For the first version, we will be still supplying the version 22.1 until the 23.1 of the IntelliJ IDEA, some critical bug fixes and small changes that will improve the user experience. We will do it as long as we have users at those versions of the IntelliJ IDEA, and as soon as we don't have them, we will drop the support of that version completely. Also, all of the bug fixes, if they relate to the version 2, we will still also provide to the version 2 as well, but it would relate on the feature we are fixing the bug on. Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. Okay, and the first main change is the introduction of the refresh date and time. So actually, right now, if you are using the plugin, it's not possible to see where the content for the specified mask or filter is fetched. So as we in the plugin, we have a personal caching system. And actually, to fetch the newest content from the mainframe, we need to refresh the mask or the filter. But for the user, it's not possible to see when was the last refresh triggered. So with the new version, we are introducing this functionality. So now it would be possible for users to see when was the last refresh triggered. Also, it would apply also for JS Explorer, I believe. But the major change is for masks and filters in Files Explorer. Okay, next slide, please. Yes, and as I said, it's intended to show the cache data for users to track data relevance. The refresh date and time is shown after the first mask or filter open. So if it's not open yet and we don't have cached children of that mask or filter, it would not show the refresh date and time. As I mentioned, it works both for datasets and USS files, and for the JS Explorer, the same functionality is in progress. Okay. For the USS sorting feature, we decided to introduce it only for the USS file system right now. So with the plugin, with the new version, it would be possible to sort the content of the mask, or I mean USS filter, by triggering the appropriate action in the context menu for that filter. And as you can see, the functionality is intended to be for name type and last modification date sorting. It will appear in ascending or descending order depending on the user selection. Okay. Yes, as I said, it's for the USS part of the system. Actually, we are working on the introduction of this feature to the datasets and JS filters. Actually, this functionality will work not only for the USS filters, but also for USS folders in any order they appear. Yeah. Okay. For the cancel operation enhancements, there were not visible what was the cause of the operation cancellation. For example, if we have error for the operation and it's not executed appropriately, so we see the notification that says that the operation is failed with some code. But canceling on the cancel button previously didn't say anything about what was the cause of the operation cancellation. So now it would be possible to see why it was canceled. Actually, it will work both for dialog window, like if we cancel on the dialog window, it will show the error message saying that operation canceled by user, or it also will show the notification if the operation is canceled, that was canceled was the background operation. Okay, next slide, please. Yeah, it will show the specified error in the dialog window or notification tray, and will work for any cancel operations, and it will not interrupt the normal flow of the plugin. Okay. Yeah, in this version, in the version 1, I mean, for the plugin, we didn't have much explained in the error notification. And actually, it was a lot bigger than now. And it was not possible to appropriately figure out what was the cause of the problem. So with the version 2, we will introduce the notification with the explanation of the error cause. Like it will go like the title of the error, then a small piece of the information about the error, and later it will be possible to click more button to see the dialog window with all the diagnostic information about the error. Okay. Yeah, and also if the error is unclear, it will say unknown error instead of the details. Okay, next slide, please. This is a small change, but it, I believe, intended for the user experience. So actually creating the dataset, we don't have any explanation on any fields. And as you can see on the GIF, if we are triggering the allocation of the new dataset, and if we want to know what are the allocation units, we will see it in this dialog window. It will say that the allocation units are related to some of them. So, for example, if we want to allocate a data set with cylinders allocation units, it will allocate the appropriate amount of the tracks, and the track explanation is 56,000 bytes. And actually, this explanation is related to the 3390 device type that is actually the default as we expect. Yeah. Next slide, please. And also for this feature, it's a small feature, but we expect some feedback from users if it is something useful for the users. Then we will continue to add such explanations for other fields. And if not, then we won't do that. Yeah. Also for the for the allocation units, as the SMF REST API does not support megabytes and kilobytes, so we don't have the explanation for them, as well as allocation units itself. Okay. Another user experience change is the notification after dataset is created instead of dialog window. So now in the version 1, if we create the new dataset, it says that it's possible to create mask for that dataset to see it in the file explorer. In the new version, it will not show the dialog window. It will just show the notification that will not interrupt the normal flow of the usage of the plugin. Okay. Yeah, and with this notification, it is still possible to create a new mask after the dataset is created. as we will have the button inside of that notification. Okay. And probably the last feature that is visible right now is TSO CLI ATTN key. So actually before, I mean, in the version 1 of the plugin, we didn't have these functionalities. So when we type in the command that is not what we intended to type, for example, or if we want to cancel the execution of this operation completely, before it was not possible to do so, and with this button, it will become possible to do. So actually, if we, for example, type in the user with non-existing user, it will say that it's invalid user ID and you will re-enter that. But with this button, it will simulate the PA1 functionality. Okay. Yeah, and actually the functionality for the TSO CLI is growing, and the big major changes will relate to user feedback. But actually, there are some reworks, but they are internal for the backend of the TSO CLI, and probably they would be visible in the next version of the plugin. Okay. And actually, I didn't mention some of the changes for the plugin, such as changes with config the support. For example, we had internal for the IntelliJ native configuration handling, and it was the version 1, as we said, for the version 1 of the plugin. But with the new version of the plugin, we will change the functionality a little bit, but it should not affect any of the users, as the config version 1 is actually the functionality that was working before, before the version 22.1 of the IntelliJ. So I believe all the users that were using the plugin before the version 1 are already migrated to the newest version of the plugin and the IntelliJ idea as well. And actually, for the resources, as we have in here, it's zowe.org/vnext for the next version of the Zowe related things. For the plugin, you can download that directly from the plugin JetBrains.com by this link. Also, it is possible to install and download the plugin directly from the IntelliJ IDE. And for the GitHub, we have github.com/zowe/zowe explore IntelliJ. If we want to create an issue for the plugin, or maybe discuss something or create a pull request to change some functionality, you're open to do so. For our contacts, we have Zowe Explore IntelliJ channel in the OMP Slack. As for me, I'm Vladislav Kolesnikov. You're free to contact me anytime with LinkedIn, OMP Slack, or email, as you could see on the slide. So I guess that's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the audience? Do not see any questions in the chat, but we'll keep it open. And
yeah, also,
I do want to.
Sorry, Rose. Also, as a bonus for those who are still with us, we have some changes not mentioned in this presentation, but we are still working on them, and I believe they will be in the version 2. But for those, you could contact me, and I will explain more about them.
Okay, so surprise functionality coming.
Yeah, right? I like that.
Okay. I also wanted to mention that as this is a new core component of Zowe, the team is working towards introducing a conformance program for this Zowe Explorer, similar to the program that we have for the Explorer for Visual Studio Code. Our goal is to introduce that when we introduce V3. However, we're not sure if that introduction will be at the exact same time. But so if you're interested in extending the Zowe Explorer for IntelliJ, look for that conformance program coming soon after we introduce V3 and introduce the IntelliJ Explorer with V3. And let's see, I think I have one more slide here. I just want to remind everybody that we have a mailing list with the Open Mainframe project called Zowe-User. We encourage everyone who's interested in Zowe to join this mailing list. It helps to ensure that we are able to reach out to all of our users and extenders of Zowe and provide you with relevant and important information. This gives us an opportunity to reach out to you versus having to remember to come back to any of our Zowe contact areas, such as zowe.org or any of the GitHub repos, for example, or the Slack channels. It's just easier for us to reach all of you if you are a member of this list. So please consider joining. The best and easiest way to do this is to go to zowe.org and use the arrow in the announcements at the very top of zowe.org, and there is a link there that will take you right to the user mailing list. It will walk you through the registration process. I think it's very quick. And with that, if there are still no questions, I thank you for a fantastic presentation, and we'll look forward to seeing everybody next week. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thank you, Rose, for hosting. Thank you, everybody, for listening.